Welcome to Knock Your Socks Off, the podcast that aims to knock your socks off. I'm Ravi, joined by...
I'm Hannah.
And Hannah, how are you knocking my socks off today?
Well, it's the end of the year, and we're doing a reflection mode moment. You know, the Hannah, I love a good reflection moment. So we're going through the best of the KYSO episodes of the year. We did 30.
Dang.
For the sake of 52 weeks in a year, we started early May. Mm-hmm. We're going to run through them and see what we thought.
Nice.
And if the internet, if y'all want to share your favorites, feel free to hop in as well. But we're going to go through them and just see what tea maybe we should spill from each one, or our faves and our least faves. Because we're allowed to have our least faves, like especially, you know.
Yeah, I think we should preface this, though. You're going to give teas in terms of like how we came up probably with like topics, I'm assuming, and things, and like how we shifted. Yeah. I'm going to just solely be about production.
Sure.
In terms of the challenges of production for these things. Because
we did have some.
I would start by saying, people, maybe if you've been following for a minute, hopefully you've been following for a minute, but if this is your first time jumping in, we try and shoot each podcast at different locations.
In different ways.
We try not repeat locations if we don't have to. So each one has its own like unique look, which is kind of cool.
Fun. Yeah.
But yeah, that brings up production issues. So
it does. So as we go through, we're not gonna like heavily go through each one. It'll be
speed round.
It's speed round, and I was just like thinking the funny things. But as we go back, like, even as I was like making like just writing out the little list of them, I was like, we've really done, like, when I think back to like some of the first ones or whatever, it's like we did do some shit really. Like, we just kind of went with it and started doing it with a little to. I mean, we had some know-how, but like little to no direction in what exactly was happening.
We had no idea of our flow.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just started one day. Yeah.
So maybe let's just start. Not that like all of a sudden now I'm like, this is gonna be like a tea spilling episode. It's really not. But like what for you, in the essence of, remember when we were trying to figure out like what to name the podcast? Yep. Mm-hmm. And because like we were like, it's just a joke. I even tell my friends, I was like, everyone in LA has a podcast. Yep. Like to be a person in LA without one, it makes you almost more unique than having a podcast at this point.
Truly.
But like, yeah, for us it was like we had to think of, oh, hello friend.
Furball cat. Invading.
Per your name, per your shirt on your.
Oh yeah, the cat's name is Megatron, and I'm wearing a Megatron shirt.
So it just kind of works. But like, what were your like thoughts as we were like figuring out like the direction of the naming of the pod? Because we were kind of like, we like, you know, in wanting to do one or something, it was like we don't want to just come on here and blindly talk.
Yeah, no, we wanted to have a good structure. We wanted, like, we didn't, because obviously I had a podcast before this one. I still do. I mean, it's whatever, but I didn't want to repeat the previous podcast that I had.
And that one had a really specific direction, which is great.
Right. And this one was, you know, we wanted it loose enough that we could talk about a variety of different topics.
Totally.
You know, if we wanted to talk about franchises like Star Wars, because we both like Star Wars. Sure. If we wanted to talk about like the mayhem of like a road trip. Yeah. Or if we wanted to, you know, do things like explain winter to the other person. Like, exactly. We needed to come up with a name that was loose enough that would allow you to discuss a variety of topics. Totally. And, you know, I think it's interesting. We came up with what are we going to talk about first. Yeah. And then went with what was the name that kind of like accompanies that. Yeah. And then I remember it was a lot of like, you were like, this is going to take a minute. I was like, no. We got this thing called Chat GPT.
That's true. You did.
And Chat GPT definitely helped with like basically like figuring out the path of like where the name should go. Yeah. And then also, you know, kind of helping us with like our first season, if you will, artwork and direction and things until we kind of like really figured out this is what we like, this is what we want. Yeah.
And maybe if any of that, I mean, especially, which is actually going to be kind of fun that you can talk about production or kind of like more of the creative direction in that regard, if you will, because you like, again, like people can make a podcast. Like, it's not that crazy. Like, we really did just think of like, we want to have some sort of direction, some sort of angle, and like we're very different people, and so the space of like we have ample things that we either agree on correctly, like we are aligned on, and then we have a lot of things that we see the world differently or have like very different experiences, and so being able to kind of bring some of that to like the heat of topics, you know, and being able to like have fun with it. So it's been great. And so we've done 30. This is our 31st episode. So there are 30 topics that we have attempted to knock each other's socks off with. Sure. So again, some that we agreed with from the jump, and then so just talked about because we care about it, and then many that we are very different on. So I'm just going to run through them and from oldest to newest. And then we'll kind of like piecemeal some of our questions and stuff. Okay, so we started our pod with May the 4th, so Star Wars episode, and specifically what was coming out around there, because a lot of things come out at that time per the Star Wars franchise, as you noted. We did Ask Reddit, which I would say in general was our first like Ask Reddit subreddit. You just picked them. Like you just picked Ask Reddit ones, and I feel like Reddit has become a fun, which again, is a very heated space in general, so
Reddit's
it's like an easy
a gold mine.
It really is a gold mine.
Getting topics to discuss.
Yeah. We talked about pets, which is fun.
Yep, that was a good one.
It was a good one. We talked about the summer of Ryan Reynolds. He had, which is crazy that was this year.
Yeah, it feels like a year ago.
Like it feels like years ago that the Deadpool and like what if? Just if. Yeah.
Just if.
Wrexham, like that feels lives ago almost, like so crazy. Like even just recently the Variety or Vanity Fair or whichever one came out with like the actors on actors and Ryan Reynolds and Andrew Garfield talked, and it's like crazy when I'm like, that's right, like Deadpool was this year. Like is nuts. We went to a Dodger game and we tried doing a pod there. We didn't try. We did do it.
We did do it.
It was for like 20 minutes.
It just didn't work. Like because again, you can't bring in like high-end cameras, microphones.
Yeah.
So we snuck in. We didn't sneak in. You're allowed to bring these things in. You
totally are. And there are people who are vlogging, and there's a bunch of people out.
We brought in.
You don't have to not.
Yeah, I would say it's our worst sounding pod.
Oh yeah.
The audio was a mess. Yeah, it was not.
Yeah, I mean, which I think you were a trooper for the Hannah of it all. Of like, it took you, I would say, a minute to not talk me into doing a podcast in general, but I don't love being on camera, and so for sure when we were out in the quote unquote wild, I was even more so like, we cannot give any like any light to us, like we have to be as discreet as possible. Like not because you like, again, there are people out there like
with phones
at Dodger, like people are totally recording or with bigger cameras or fancy cameras, like people do bring that shit to games, but I was like, no. So you were a trooper in helping us get through that one, but the audio is crazy and talk about a lot of interruptions. It was nuts but fun.
It was definitely fun.
We did one of Harry Potter versus Star Wars, being a couple of our
I forgot about
ones.
that one.
I know. We did that one. That was really fun. And then we did some, again, more Ask Reddit, but this one we did 2-sentence comedy and 2-sentence horror.
That was a great one.
Those were great.
And we shot that at a beach too.
We went to a beach.
and it was one of those things where we're packing everything up and we're going, and I'm like, a beach is noisy. Yeah. How is it going to sound? And like, it didn't put that like two and two together until like we were essentially like halfway there. And
truly. And it was like, well,
yeah, this is going to sound like shit potentially. And it's like, well, we're here and like we drove here. Let's just see what happens.
We're going to do it in some fashion. We talked about The Bear season 3.
That's right.
Which is like crazy. I mean, it's not crazy.
Okay, Kat.
I mean, it's not like The Bear's been coming out for multiple seasons in a row in a year now. There we go. Cat booty. But season 3. Is season 4 already announced for this coming year?
It's coming out. I don't think they've started filming.
There's not a date yet.
They haven't started filming yet.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So there's no date or anything.
Okay.
It's just,
but that was chaos. That was like, didn't we watch that in like a day too?
Yes.
That was terrifying.
Yep.
Not terrifying. It's just terrifying to think about sitting and watching the Bear, which is stressful.
And we did that with Italian subs in front of us.
That was great. That was actually smart. That was the smartest movie made in regards to that.
It was funny though. I remember the comments and some like the social clips that we put out for that one where people were like, why is there a sandwich in front of
and like half a sandwich. Like we clearly ate half of it and then we and
then we did a pod to pause, and then I think halfway through the pause, like, fuck this, I'm gonna eat the sandwich.
You know what, like props aren't always the best. Yeah. We did a July 4th episode. We did that one at Lawless Brewing. That was super fun. So they let us again go out and do a pod in the wild, which I was again nervous about, but they were such troopers, and that was really fun. And
so,
we went early enough too.
That was your third pod in the wild.
In the wild, because we did Dodgers.
Pets was your first one, our first
one.
We
did do that year. We did that.
And that was at a park.
That was true, and that was a bigger setup. That was a bigger camera setup kind of vibe. And then the beach. So I mean, we did a couple. We started, but like ones. I guess like the Dodgers and Lawless was like, there were people walking right by you. Like when we were at the parks, like you could kind of
find a corner.
You could kind of find a corner, and people aren't going to really approach you with that.
And
necessarily.
The beach day was like, it was empty.
Dead.
It was dead.
It was kind of a classic like California coast one, which
it was
was
like the middle of the week, in the middle of the day,
and it was just like cloudy. Like it wasn't like the most beautiful, like we got to get to the beach.
Wasn't it like we left as the sun was coming out? And it's like,
literally
great. Good job, son.
And everybody was coming to the beach. We were like, well, for us, it worked out. We did idioms, which was fun. Yeah. That was a really nerdy one. Which I
feel like that was more fun for you.
It was way more fun for me. You had good reactions.
Definitely. But it was a lot of like,
it was
I was mentally exhausted by the end of that pod.
Having to think about like all of the stories and idioms.
Yeah.
We did Olympics. Okay, crazy that the Olympics happened this year. Again, similarly, where it's like the Deadpool and stuff. It's like the Olympics were in August.
That's wild.
Like not that long ago. Also, August was like at this point almost like 6 months ago, which is nuts. It was like 4, but still, it's like August feels like yesterday too. You know what I mean? Like what the hell?
That's so crazy.
It's crazy. Olympics. We did anti-heroes. That was a fun one. Kind of got to go across different IPs that we like.
Yeah.
Summer snack off. We ended that. We had props for that one.
Yeah, we
got better with props.
We did. We've gotten better.
We got fuller. I think maybe the solve or the takeaway from the bear one was we had a sandwich, but yeah, it was just like too weirdly there.
Yeah.
Versus the summer snack off, we had like a lot of things. It was fuller.
It made more visual sense. The half sandwich was kind of just. That's a choice. This is a choice.
Choices. We did spoilers. That was a fun one. And whether or not spoilers are good, basically.
Good or bad.
Beneficial to a story, to a tale, all the things. What would you tell your younger self via Reddit? So kind of hearing other people's takes.
Yeah, basically like life advice.
Literally, yeah, it was fun. We had our first guest with Lo, and we talked about FX, specifically in horror, but doing makeup, doing molding, crazy.
That one was cool because we were able to shoot it in an escape room.
It was super dope, y'all.
Which was like both scary.
It was legit scary.
And amazing. And also, again, technical nightmare because we had never done
about that one.
3 microphones and and like that, and because of our placement and how we were sitting and how we were holding our mics, audio was a massive pain. And again, that I would say I don't know which one's worse audio, the Dodgers or that one, but
I feel like Dodgers was worse. We had a snafu in the FX one. I remember we had pause for something, but it was really fun. So I walk into that one, like you were already there, like setting up, you and Lo, like we're doing it. And I guess I kind of pictured like when we were going to be doing it in an escape room, I just kind of thought, to be honest, like we would be like, I knew that the escape room wasn't open yet. So we in a sense had access, but it was like, I thought we would just be in like a kind of a random, not lobby room, but like whatever room. Like
sure.
We go into this one, which number one, this room had like, or the building at large, like they have really good rooms. They have, obviously escape rooms are very detailed, all this stuff. But they have a wide range. They have like a treasure chest one, a pirate one, like a potions one, and they had the one that we were in, which is like this ultimately really scary one, like literally a horror like prison with bodies hanging.
Yeah, for anyone interested, it's the Minotaur escape room in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it was legit scary, and I was like, oh no. Like I walked in really slow, like I don't know if I can hang out, like because it was like the blinking lights, like it was just like there obviously wasn't music and stuff, but it was just that moment where I was like, I'm trusting that nobody here is actually going to come scare me.
That was the other problem that we were running into from a production was the type of lights in that room. And I didn't have enough lights on me to like properly light it.
Sure.
So I had to rely on both the house lights in there and
which were flickering.
They were flickering, yeah. So that was another like pain in the butt.
It was so weird.
Yeah, but it was still cool. Cool experience.
It was so fun. And honestly, to me, as like from like not my production eye that you have, it looks great. Like,
I think it came out really fun. It worked in the end for sure.
And Lo was wonderful. Like shout out to Lo. Yeah. That was a really fun one. And the scene and the setting totally lent itself to it. And she's technically also done like a lot of work there herself in the essence of the decorating of that. So it was kind of fun to, I think, also, be there and kind of be like, it was almost like being amidst her work, I think really added to that one, which is really fun. But that was another one in the wild, but not like with a guest. And it was like our first, hopefully more to come. But we did a road trips one.
Yeah.
That was fun. A back to school one, kind of at the top of the school year, if you will. Not that either of us are in school. We did a fantasy draft, but with nerd stuff.
That was a good one. That was good really to fun. Come up with.
It was fun. Like, have you been keeping up with football at all this year?
No, I mean, I went to a Patriots game.
Yes, you did.
And they won against the Jets. So my season started and ended with that game. So because the Patriots have done terrible.
So you're like, so no, I haven't.
I mean, we were both bandwagon-y Eagles fans last year.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, we haven't really paid much attention this year, but they're doing really well. So.
They're doing really well.
I mean, I think
maybe it's better when we don't pay attention.
Are playoffs about to start at the time of taping of this pod? Or
at the time of taping, no. But they're in discussion. People are in wild card. It's in the races. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people, the teams that are out are pretty much out at this point.
Right.
But no, I don't think anyone's clinched yet. Like at the time of this taping, that's not really in the conversation. But come January, it'll be big time. Big moves there.
Right.
We did one all about anime.
That's
I watched
right.
my first, in a sense, full anime intentionally, if you will, or I guess whatever, of Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about anime, which was super fun. There was like a lot of I feel like I learned a lot actually in that one, which was fun. We did a Love is Blind one.
That's right.
So that's crazy that happened this year / multiple seasons. So
even though that was
chaos
the most disappointing season,
it was so disappointing,
ever.
And it was just it was like the topic of conversation. Then it's like, what's crazy to me is that with anything, I think with reality TV, but then it just dies. Then nobody cares anymore.
It fell off a cliff.
It fell off so bad.
For us, I feel though there are some people that are still following it.
I mean, people stay.
I mean, the cast is still they're still posting
thriving.
And trying to create drama.
That's true.
And stuff.
So true.
As we talk about it, our phones are listening, and you're gonna start seeing
Love is Blind.
You're gonna start seeing your TikTok feed again filled with.
Well, fun fact. Currently, there's a new from the Love is Blind producers. There's a new season of a show called The Ultimatum, which is such chaos. And then they also actually are putting out. They're not calling it Love is Blind, but they're essentially. I think it's some version. I think anyway. It's the Love is Blind producers, and I think it's with Netflix. But I do think the Obamas are included in this, which is kind of strange. But it's like an older people dating show,
like your parents' age dating. Mm-hmm. That might be more interesting.
I know, right? But I don't think I don't think the format is Love is Blind, but I think it's from the team maybe. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
And it's gonna be a Netflix thing.
Yes. No, I think it's part the first part is out or whatever. We did a Halloween one.
That's right.
That was fun. We did another Ask Reddit of 2-sentence horror versus comedy. Mm-hmm. To see, I don't think I knocked your socks off as much as I wanted to with that one.
You hosted that one.
I did host that one, and
that was interesting.
It was.
We also shot that first thing in the morning before breakfast, and that
was intense.
It was just early.
It was early, and your brain's not quite firing on all cylinders yet, so it was a take. We did a movie soundtrack guessing game.
That's cool.
That was fun.
That was fun
shout
setup.
Shout out to there's all kinds of fun things you can find on YouTube. But they had a bunch of those fun guessing games, which was great.
Actually, one fun little behind the scenes thing with that one.
Tell me.
So we used a YouTube video that somebody else had uploaded to play the game, and that's what we were playing. Yes. And then we also had that same video playing throughout. So if you were listening to the pod, you could listen as well to what we're listening to.
Yeah.
We did get a copyright strike on YouTube in one specific country. It was Russia.
Yes.
And what was the movie?
Was it just for Back to the Future?
I think it was just for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Because there's
Ghostbusters. Maybe it was Ghostbusters.
One of those
two. One of them. I mean, it was they're all big.
But it was only in Russia
that just for that little song.
Yeah, that little song. It was so weird.
I know. It was so weird. You're like,
okay,
all right, committing to the bit. Yeah, they really did. I know. Very weird.
Because we have a huge Russian audience. I guess.
Truly. So sorry to you guys for not seeing that one. We did, and then just recently we did movies coming out this holiday season, winter blockbusters. Talking about those. We did an Am I the Asshole? We talked about D&D. I played my first game of D&D. We went through the winters situation, weather, being from the East Coast, being from the West Coast, our experience with snow and winters, and then a holiday shopping guide, which you can listen, which is live at this moment as well. But once you finish this one, go back to that one. Do you just want to touch us? You silly. Okay, so kind of those, how do you feel like the trajectory has been as we've figured out because we have gotten in a sense, I don't know if formulaic is the word, but we've gotten more in the flow. We have a flow.
Yeah, I would say I don't think we've become formulaic.
Sure.
I think we are more intentional with our topics now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think we are adding in more tech props.
Sure.
Different ways to kind of make it so it's not just us talking to each other, essentially.
Yeah.
The shopping list one, I think, was fun because we had visual aids to help kind of push it along.
Totally.
The soundtrack one obviously was a game, essentially, which was fun.
Yeah.
And I think those ones are always fun and interesting and cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think our trajectory is definitely an upwards one from where we started to where we are now.
What if he literally was the trajectory's been just dropping? We have been.
I'm like that first pod. That was peak.
That was peak, and the rest of it has
and we've been just dropping since.
It's been low. has been so low. Yeah, I think if anything, for like personal sake, like I love the production stuff too, but personally, again, like I said earlier, like I'm not the biggest fan of putting myself on camera and like doing all the stuff, and so feeling more comfortable with that has been fun, as well as like kind of like I think I rewatched like to get like some like social clips, whatever, you know, like I rewatched like some of our first ones semi recently, and you know, and you just look back on yourself and I'm just like just like trying to like, it's just so stiff and like trying to like ask the exact question. Like I can't think of anything. I'm trying to like not talk over you. And well, you gave me a lot of feedback on the mics. Actually, this is you should talk about this.
That's right.
Because I was really bad at mics.
Yeah, mic placement's always been really interesting with us. We started out holding like we are right now.
Yeah, we did.
And the thing I noticed, how you would hold the mic, but then you would like forget you're holding a mic, and you would kind of move away from the microphone as you're talking. Yeah. And it was like, you just kind of like when you're doing a pod, your arm in the microphone, your head, you're one. Like,
you are one. You are the mic stand.
The mic, your arm is the mic stand. It doesn't go away from your face. It's like it's stuck to your face.
Yeah.
And then in order to like help with that, I took away. We stopped holding the mics. We would put them on tables.
We did. Yeah.
Or arms. We have mic arms and things like. So we have different ways. But you've gotten a lot better, and honestly, like especially like with this setup, obviously we're holding. It's like, why aren't we just using stands? It's like it's my own laziness. I just don't want to set up 2 extra stands.
At least in the essence of like me having gotten better, so that we can have this be the way to go. The thing
that I've noticed as we've gone on,
have you gone worse?
I've gotten worse with like my movement. Like when I'm free to like move like, and this is important specifically when we do our social clips, because we cut for 9x16 vertical. Yeah. And like, then you have to track, like, I'm probably gonna be super annoyed when I go back, because you're probably gonna be like, oh, this is a funny thing. And then I'm gonna have to track my fucking face moving all over the goddamn place. Yeah. So you got better. I got worse.
Perfect.
But specifically with my, like having to edit me. Basically,
totally.
Because like you just like you're there, like you're
there, and I'm like just like focused on my voice being the movement through me as my instrument. You know,
definitely.
Do you have a favorite pod per your memory of sorts or something?
I mean, because you had asked me.
Actually, wait. Let's do. Let's do. Because you know I'm a bit of like a sandwich person. So we talked about good things we've grown through, but then let's do our least favorite first, actually.
Sure.
And then we'll do our favorite. So it'll allow you to think more about your favorite one.
Okay.
But
I think my least favorite, I think it's got to be idioms.
Sure.
To be honest. And it's not because of you picking the topic or anything like that.
Oh no.
It is because
I love it. You're not making me not love it.
It's because it's because that production was semi nightmare in terms of like setting up and
that
like
was
the
a crazy
location that we had picked.
Yeah.
We didn't have full control to like dress it the way we wanted to dress it. So visually it hurt my eyeballs.
Sure.
And then like the second one was audio was doing a weird like echoey loop thing.
Did we have stands for that one or arms for that one?
I think we had arms for that one.
There's a lot. It was a lot going on.
And then also like how I'm sitting it. I just didn't like how I visually looked.
Sure. That happens.
Then the cake obviously being like, it was a lot of mental thinking.
And it was a lot of me having done research and knowing what I was talking about in a sense. And then being like, you like answer me what you're thinking. And you're like, I have no idea. Now I have to perform as well as like.
Basically, because I had to essentially like, I was like, okay, I'm going to come up across as an idiot. So like, I need to be funny. Over. So I'm just going to come up with the most absurd things.
You came up funny.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of go with it.
But yeah, idioms was a deep cut nerd one for me.
What was your least favorite?
My least favorite one, honestly, I do think it was the Ask Reddit to the one that I hosted, which was the two sentence comedy versus horror. Yeah. Because I am not as much of a Reddit user as you are, and so in general, I'm a little bit more of a Reddit noob. But it was like I really wanted to like get some fun ones, and so like once I kind of came up with the idea of like putting like doing comedy versus horror to like knock your socks off and making you guess which one. I do that enough, and so I number one pick ones that I think are both funny and scary, which again, we're very different people. So the things that I think are funny and scary, you usually don't think are funny and scary or whatever, right? So like already I realize this as I'm like looking, it's like, but I didn't think about that until I was like, we were sitting and I was looking at you like, oh shit, you're not going to actually find any of this funny.
You're not going to laugh.
You're not going to laugh or be scared about this. Yeah. And so then that part, and then also that one, like maybe similar to kind of to what you're saying of like in the idioms one, I was kind of asking you to perform, was like the space of like all of a sudden I realized that I had to perform for you in that one to like try
to
and
really like sell
like,
it.
Yeah. so I was just like, it was that moment of like, but again, it wasn't until the camera was set up and I was like, oh shit, I actually don't fully like, because you have to kind of, again, you're on camera, so you kind of have to believe what you're talking about in some fashion. And it was like, no, that didn't, but it was just kind of like, dang. Like
thankfully, it still worked out. Like, I mean, some of these topics and things that we pick don't always, you know, hit or slap in the moment, but it always like overall, it feels like it works out.
Yeah.
You know, for like some secret tea, I think there's only one episode we've ever like scrapped.
Yeah.
Because it was like a on the spur of the moment type thing.
Totally.
Bad lighting.
Totally.
Bad topics.
Yeah.
Just bad all around. I was like, we're not putting this out ever.
Yeah, no. Yeah. We even considered like putting out like just like really random social clips from it. And we were both like, there's nothing.
It's just like, it's just really bad. Garbage.
Yeah. And, but that's also like what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you bake a cake, you sometimes not every cake is the perfect one.
Yeah.
So you got to throw them out, and it was fine. We still have fun. I mean, ultimately what we want to do is we want to have fun with this. And so we're not looking to have 1 million people follow us or have a bunch of like, or $1 million. We're just having fun. And so that's what it is. Okay. So what is your favorite one? If you had to pick one.
Yeah. My favorite.
Or a favorite, maybe.
I mean, it's tough because again, like each one is so unique.
Truly.
The topic, how we set it up. I think maybe either the Lawless one, the July 4th.
Yeah.
Or the guest one with Lo would be my favorite because it's a combination of the topics that we talked about were really fun and interesting.
Sure.
And then also the production setup.
Those are both fun.
And then also something completely new for both of us, like in terms of interviewing a third party.
Yeah.
Or, you know, interviewing Lo. Yeah. And then also like doing a pod in public.
Yeah.
Is always kind of like a who.
Totally.
You know, it's been interesting. Like, you know, Lawless is a nice friend of ours through the socials and all that, and like they have said, you know, come do another one, and
I know
we like, really should. Like
we kind of tried a couple different times, like kind of loosely, and like, but then it's just it is tougher
from a sound perspective. It's not the best, and when we went early enough that the place was empty enough.
Yeah, and in LA summer, which is hot, so we kind of picked a time when little people would be there.
Yes,
so it worked. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, those are fun, hoops to jump through. But that you nailed every time, so that was impressive. I think my favorite one is the Harry Potter versus Star Wars one.
Nerd.
Truly a nerd. But I think there was just something, because that was kind of one that I would almost say that we co-hosted in a sense. Like I had an outline for us, and we went through. We honestly didn't even get through my outline. It's the only pod that as far as I know, we've like not even like scratch the surface of like what I thought we were going to talk about, because we just went on tangents. We just like started talking, because it is two things we're very passionate about, and we also know that it's just like stupid and fun. Like we don't take it so seriously that we like are gonna like feel butthurt about it, but we'll just like get heated for no reason. But yeah, I think we talked for an hour and a half, which is also possibly I think our longest.
It's definitely our longest podcast ever.
And I think there was also just something about that one that, again, it was like, so that would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was like our 6th or 7th one. And so I feel like also at that time I was just getting more comfortable. So it was kind of like the perfect blend of like, I was more comfortable. It was a topic we were both like could easily talk about without an outline. And then we barely even got through the outline that we had.
Right.
And so I think that one was like, in a sense, my favorite one, because it just was like, oh yeah, like we could just keep like one-upping each other almost with like the next conversation of like what to knock each other's socks off, but also just like talking about fun stuff. So I think that was my favorite. But yeah, so I don't know. It was just been a fun.
It's been a wild ride. I think.
Yeah.
The most difficult thing. Yeah. What's like the most difficult thing about doing this podcast?
Oh,
I mean, I already got my answer.
Oh, go for it then.
And I think it's the cadence of like maintaining the Saturday drops.
Sure.
I think it can definitely. I think that piece can get formulaic for us in terms of like we have to do this, and then we sometimes, or we have like gone into a habit where it's like, oh, we just have to come up with something.
Sure.
You
and
know?
Don't really care
and
about
then we really then have to sit and be like, okay, we need to like really talk about something that we actually care about. Otherwise, why bother, you know?
Totally.
And then I think that's where we did take a break for, how long was that? Like a month?
At least a couple of weeks, really.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. And that was just because life gets in the way sometimes, and that's A-okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And then
Yeah.
But you've done, I think, I mean, I'm jumping all over the place, but I think you've done like a really amazing job of like keeping the cadence on our TikTok and posting like one every single day for I don't know if you've missed a day, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
truly crazy.
She's just a bit of a routine gal, so it all
it works.
But thank you. It's fun. You can check out our socials at KYSO Podcast on TikTok and YouTube. For sure.
And Blue Sky now.
And Blue Sky.
We're on Blue Sky now.
We're at
KYSO podcast. Yeah. Well, it's technically KYSO podcast.bluesky.
Well, yeah, .app or whatever they're doing or some shit. That's right. But yeah, I think the most difficult part. I mean, the cadence is tough. Like I was just going to say like in cadence and so for the sake of because I think you're right. What I kind of hear you saying is like the cadence and then thus like having to come up with topics or like, feel like we, again, because we're doing this for fun. So like feel like we have to come up with topics versus like what we want to talk about. But I think kind of with that is like, yeah, sometimes like scheduling is a difficult part, but that's like scheduling with two different adult like calendars is tough in general.
You're an adult. I'm not an adult.
Truly. But I think what's more difficult, I think, than that though is, like I think there's just the truth, and I figure that this would come up in different spaces and times, but like sometimes you just like don't want to be on camera, and like there's kind of that space, like and which I guess is kind of still tailed into the scheduling / cadence, but it's kind of this space of like, oh yeah, like I don't really like kind of like it's been an interesting space of learning kind of like when it kind of helps to like keep it and kind of was like, oh, we can kind of like rise to the occasion. And then sometimes, when it's kind of like, you know what, no, like we're not going to do it. And trusting that like that's okay at times and like kind of doing that. I would say the thing that, and you appreciating the consistency of TikToks or whatever, I will shout you out for the sake of as you were noting different production stuff, but we really have like in the essence of just like thrown different ideas and specifically locations out at you, and so you have like shown up for all those things, you have like made it happen, you have thought things on the fly, like created different like spaces that work within a different space and whatnot, so it's been really fun to like also see that as well as like reap the benefit of that, if you will, for the sake of you and I both, which I think is cool. And I guess like maybe the last thing we'll like close out on is like kind of like if you wanted to start your own pod, like how would you do it? Like with 2 people or 3 people or 5 people or something, I don't know, whatever. I would definitely say to really, I think to communicate your lanes kind of, and to like figure, because I think that's why we like it also works with the difficulty at times of scheduling, of cadence, of sometimes we don't feel like it, and then also like but like our lanes of like we really have like a pre and post production, like definitely not splitsies, but like we have a very clear space of like what lane we're serving into like the pod as a whole. And that's what I'd recommend to people is like, so that you can also see each other shine. Like there's also a space where it's like, it makes you rise to the occasion of like, well, we're setting up in this weird place or outside or in a public place. Like what are we going to do? And then for me, like being able to note like, well, we're doing this for fun, but we want to put it out to the people. So like, how do we deliver this product? Whatever, like, here we go, like doing all the like post, like production there. And so I think, it's just been like fun to like do that. But I would definitely recommend if you're going to do your own podcast or I guess anything that is going to go out on the internet in a version for the sake of like putting out to public, and you're doing it with a team of people. Like, make sure your lanes are really clear. What would you recommend to people if they wanted to start a podcast in 2025?
I mean, I'm not trying to like shout out a company here or anything. By no means is that what I'm aiming here, but I would say like Spotify does have it down in terms of making it ridiculously easy.
Totally.
Their Great Podcaster app
for creators,
which I think used to be known as Anchor. You can use that right in your phone.
Love it.
I think you can do it remote even over like a phone call, and it records it locally and then syncs it for like it's like very, very easy. So and it's super easy at this point, but like I would start there. Don't worry about the technical.
Sure.
And like, especially if this is your first time doing a pod, don't even worry about, do I need to be on video or not? Like podcasts at the end of the day, they are audio first.
Totally.
It's an audio platform. We do video because I'm a video nerd.
That's true.
And I like the visuals of cameras and doing that stuff. So Start audio first, get your cadence down.
Yeah.
And then build from there.
I like it. Okay. I've thought of one last actual question.
Love
so I was going to do one more fun one. Are you done, Megatron? Megatron's like, well, I'm out of here. You said last one last time.
Yep. He's truly just walking out.
He's like, you know what?
Okay, wow.
If for our list of them, would there be any you'd want to repeat next year? Like that you think we could either do better on, or maybe there's obviously going to be. I mean, there's a lot of these are.
I definitely want to figure out doing more guests.
Yeah,
I think that's like a different perspective.
Totally love.
I definitely don't want the podcast to suddenly be like we have a new guest every week.
Sure.
Because I feel this podcast was never set up to be that. Like if you're a podcast that works on having a new guest, then do that. Of course. But we're not based on that. Revisit the Star Wars versus Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And not like create a new outline. Like let's try and finish the outline.
Go back through.
Yeah, we would literally call this part 2.
Literally, that's fair.
I think that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
And then I definitely want to try and do a couple more like public ones.
Sure.
Like probably at Lawless.
Yeah,
because I think those are really, really fun to do as well.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we'll probably definitely continue mining Reddit for like various posts and topics and things.
Truly. Yeah.
And then I think the last thing.
Yeah.
It's not repeating actually.
Okay.
Unless you have like a what do you want to do new next year type question.
No, that was it. The repeating one.
Oh yeah. And then I think in terms of
because we'll have ideas for new ones, but we haven't even started brainstorming yet for next year. So.
I think I do want to start topping though for next year. Like I want to do more, not serious topics per se. That's the wrong word, but like more things that like
you want to get into politics.
Kind of, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Like I want to talk about. I think we should talk about like. Things that will make people uncomfortable, and politics is like number one.
Knock their socks off.
Yeah,
it's
and again, we are comfortable enough with our pod that if we decide the episode is too polarizing, or our points that we're making aren't coming across clear,
yes,
I think we are both of like mind where if we need to can it, we can can it, and 100%. That is what it is.
Yeah.
But you're not going to know if it works or whatever until you at least record the thing and listen to it and try.
Truly, and serious ones would be interesting. I like that. I like it because it's like, Also, if you keep talking about the same fun topics, like there's obviously. There's comedy podcasts and having fun, having a laugh is great, but like also like being able to like go into like some actual like let's
real
knock your
topics.
Socks off.
Yeah.
I mean, like we talk about it off camera, so being able to like bring that here could be interesting. Just to host it if people want to know. I think my thought would be. I like the idea of doing some like more in public still, or like going to like other games or whatnot could be fun, because I think giving some like it was fun like hearing your like relation with like with baseball, or like having like different like topics of like when we're out and about kind of thing is fun. And then like having other guests I think is definitely something I would want. I would even like love to like go into people's like similar to how we went into Lowe's like place of work, or like a space of like that there's like a focal point to that. Like I think is like a really fun, again, because like I don't know if you ever think about it, but like every now and then I'm like, I don't actually know what my friends do for a living, or like I don't know what that entails. So it's like if we were to like be able to introduce people and kind of like go into like, or have guest spots where we could like go into like see how they spend their day, or like or when in them knocking our socks off is also like seeing that in action. I think is really fun.
Yeah.
But then like I think a direct repeat or like continuation of Harry Potter versus Star Wars, like very fun, very true. And I mean, I had a lot of fun like with the D&D one. And so I think in general, I'm a person who loves asking questions. And so whether it's like a D&D part 2 or just like me continuing to gather questions and like throwing them your way because I will have them anyway. So being able to do that would be fun, but also like in taking that like idea for the sake of like fun questions around like any different games or whatnot that I don't know. I think the D&D opened a little world of like, ooh, there gotta be other games.
I don't know why. It's not a game, but I was like, oh, you should ask me about the singularity.
What the fuck is the singularity?
Oh, you should look it up after this. It's not a game. It's it's an idea of like what AI will do to humanity.
Oh, we about to talk about AI?
Oh yeah, we totally should do a full pod on that one.
Full pod.
Yeah.
But that's that.
Nice.
So it's been a fun time, and once it comes into early May, we'll have a 1 year. But for the sake of closing out 2024, we did it. Thanks for being co-host and listening to me yell at you sometimes or laugh really loudly. And you have to, when you're editing it, your sound, I think, probably hurts your ears at times.
Big time. Yes. Yep.
So
I curse your name. Yeah. Like how
goddamn, like could she just keep her sound normal?
Like how what's his face? Kirk yells out Khan in Star Wars, Star Trek Wrath of Khan.
There you go.
Because you know what I'm talking about.
I really totally. Totally. But it's been fun.
Definitely.
So
bet. Say less.
Oh my God. Truly. Well, as we noted before, but you can find us on the socials including Blue Sky now, but on TikTok and YouTube at KYSO Podcast and on Blue Sky at KYSO Podcast. But then, yeah, for the sake of the handle and then they're the Blue Sky things that we're still figuring out, but it's fun.
Yeah. New pods every Saturday.
Have a lovely holiday. And we'll see you on the other side.
Yep.
On the other side. One way out. Get this out of this year.